in ancient Western laws, rape was considered as a property offense. It wasn't considered a violent offense. It was a property offense where the man owned the woman. Because in the patriarchal mindset, the family owns that woman and her chastity and virginity. Even now, when we talk about harsh punishment, it is a regressive perspective from women's empowerment point of view. How does patriarchy protect sexual offenders? You shouldn't talk to children about these matters. They're too young, but they're watching pornography on their palms. That's how they're getting their sex education. In India, you will not hear of marital rape as a crime. That was one of the recommendations of the Verma Commission, which was not actually included in the new Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. So there is a lot that can be done at a policy level, provided we recognize that law and order is not enough. But when it comes to policy changes, I think there's a great example in the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So that shows that patriarchy does not exist merely in the offenders and the environment in which they grow. Patriarchy, the mindset, exists in all of us. The point being that there is enough research evidence from across the world that we can use. We need to sort of bring in academics into crime prevention and crime management rather than leave it just in the hands of our politicians and policemen, because they are not educated in these matters. Policemen, if they're not trained, if the bureaucrats who are making policies are not aware of these, they can't make policies, they can't reform the way our police works. Police don't learn how to explore and investigate these matters. So there's a whole range of things that can be done based on research evidence that's already there. We don't have to start researching it and then come to the same conclusion ourselves. We can learn from others and then tweak it to our own local cultural and social norms and use it to our benefit.
If I'm to say that these policy changes are made, it's not just the legal punishment aspect which is focused here. Although there are no proper conviction rates, whenever rape comes up, the government or the people, they focus on what happens in law. But according to what you're saying, if childhood matters, if pornography matters, which all of these things do matter, what are the areas we need to look at?
Look, one of the things that we haven't touched upon is societal norms. Patriarchy is almost like a fertilizer to this ground where some of these deviant mindsets are developing. It is probably one of the biggest factors that sustains sexual violence in India, in my opinion. Hence, to tackle sexual violence or rape as an offense, we can't only rely on the law, which is what is easy to do. Because it's easy to do, and that's why governments, policemen, media people, they all talk about exemplary punishment, severe punishment, harsh punishments, because that then distracts people from the real causes, which involves you, me, every one of us. That makes the whole community, society become responsible for how we are raising our children, how we are behaving with each other. If a small boy living in a crowded one-room chawl in Mumbai sees his father use sexual violence with his mother at night, in the same room, that's what he internalizes. That's what he learns is the norm, that when I grow up, that's what I'm going to do. And no amount of crime and punishment is going to change him, because that's how he is. That's his personality. It's not something that he's having to learn all over again. That's how he has, been conditioned. So patriarchy is very important. And it's important to look at the history of the word rape. You'd be fascinated to know that it comes from the Latin word rapiere. And rapiere actually means to steal or to seize and carry off. All right. So if you think that rape actually means to seize or to steal and to carry off, in ancient Western laws, rape was considered as a property offense. It wasn't considered a violent offense. It was a property offense where the man owned the woman. And not just the one, what is it of value that the woman provided? It is her chastity, it is her virginity. So that's what the man, usually the father or the husband, owned. And when that was lost, offense of rape was seen to have been committed. And hence, even now, when we talk about harsh punishment, regressive perspective from women's empowerment point of view, rape laws in the past that we have inherited never held the owner of the woman responsible for any crimes themselves. So, for example, and it's very fascinating, in India and in many parts of other parts of the world, you have honor killing, khap panchayat, etc., where a woman makes her own choice to have relationship with a man. Her own family, father, brother, will teach exemplary lessons, including killing the woman. And that's called honor killing. Because in the patriarchal mindset, the family owns that woman and her chastity and virginity. The same thing happens when the woman is married off in India. In India, you will not hear of marital rape as a crime. That was one of the recommendations of the Verma Commission, which was not actually included in the new Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. Marital rape is still an exclusion. So a man can, at will rape his non-consenting wife. And there are people who have gone to court, and the courts have either squashed those, or even police have refused to log FIRs with such complaints. So that shows that patriarchy does not exist merely in the offenders and the environment in which they grow. Patriarchy, the mindset, exists in all of us, in various parts of the state and the public, including the judiciary, including the policemen. And that's why you have a woman who goes to a police station with a complaint of rape. The police take their own time to register that complaint. They make fun of the woman. She's made to run from pillar to post. The whole investigation is jumbled up right from the start because the police themselves carry those kind of belief systems. I'm not saying they're criminals, but the attitude is that these things don't matter. So patriarchy is the societal contribution to sustaining these kind of sexual violence, that law and order alone, tweaking law and order and punishments is not going to tackle. Otherwise, we would have seen the effects of it by now.
What do you suggest to do in a patriarchal society then? How do you bring a change to this?
Well, first we need to understand what patriarchy does. How does patriarchy inadvertently or advertently, knowingly, consciously protect sexual offenders, sex offenders or rapists? They do it. One is to blame the victim. The first thing is to blame the victim. So you have things like, women, the woman was asking for sex because of the way she was dressed. She was out in a pub with her friends getting drunk. What do you expect? Men will be men. They will engage in sort of sexual behavior. Women enjoy being raped or being enjoyed having sex because when she looks at you furtively, because she is frightened, you conclude that she's interested in me because she's looked at me. And you can sort of pick up any movies from Bollywood or any other regionals where you will see the hero constantly harassing the heroine who is not interested in his overtures, his advances, but he persists, and finally he wins her over. Now, those are some of the things that people learn, that if I persist, I will get what I want. There is a sort of sense of male entitlement. There is also this sort of myth. These are all myths that people create, that women are raped only by strangers. But we know from evidence that 40% and above are raped by people who know them, that the woman knows. Or they might say that women cry rape for revenge on powerful men. because they want money, because they want fame, because they want to blackmail. Or women could avoid being raped if they really wanted by not staying out late, by only going out with their own family members. All of this is putting the pressure on the woman to conform to the male patriarchal mold of how the society should operate, but nothing about the men who actually need to change. The men in the society are further defended. So you first blame the victim. There's victim shaming, victim blaming. A raped woman gets ostracized from the society. Even if she wins the case, the society looks at her very differently because she's now sort of used product, using that sort of old notion of men owning the
Property.
property. Yeah, she's a property, she's a defective property. And these are some of the words that you will hear people use. But the second part is how patriarchy protects the men. They will distance themselves from the offender by calling him crazy or mad or lunatic, or call them worse than animals, as though they're so very different from us. By using those words, we are saying they are not like us. We are not like them. So kill them, but we are the upstanding citizens of the country. Rapists are different. They're not like us. So that's how patriarchy operates. And in order to change our ideas of what healthy sexual relationship should look like, we can't just rely on the law to do everything for us. We need to change societal attitudes and norms, practices, and we also need to provide the victims what they actually need. That women's support groups, women empowerment groups are asking that you provide the victims with one-stop shop, where when you like rape crisis cells, where after you've been sexually assaulted, you go to the police station, the police speak to you in a compassionate, kind manner, ask you the right questions, don't make you run from pillar to post. They have medical doctors who are well trained in gathering the evidence that is necessary for successful prosecution, starting with the injuries caused to the woman, starting with DNA analysis, DNA collection, collecting the clothes of the woman, where often DNA traces of the perpetrator is left, not engaging what used to be called the two-finger test, where medical fraternity would insert two fingers into the vagina of the woman to look for laxity of the vagina. And if there was laxity, they will say, oh, she's habituated to sex. And you see that play out in courts even now, where the lawyers for the defendants, the rape accused, will target the woman's character straight away and say, well, she was dressed like this, she has lots of boyfriends, she's had sex here, there, as though those things are relevant to but that's the male patriarchal mindset that is trying to put the blame on the victim rather than anything else. So there are a lot of things that the system could do, such as I said, collecting evidence, fast track courts, providing legal assistance to the woman rather than expecting her to get a lawyer, search, etc. Not target her, not identify her. With this Kolkata case, the name of the victim came out very quickly. Even those who are protesting on her behalf were the ones I got on my WhatsApp, picture of the woman with her name, date of birth, date of death, almost like an obituary. Now, that's against the law. And these are people who should be aware. So there are lots of things that the society can do to protect the rights of the victims. But when it comes to policy changes that improves the overall socio-cultural attitude towards sexual crimes, I think there's a great example in the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, that campaign. 10 years, 15 years ago, people used to defecate publicly everywhere because they did not have the education that it is unsafe, unhygienic, and it's a big health hazard if you defecate publicly, not just to yourself, but to the environment. So it's a public health hazard. So what did the government do? It started a whole campaign, starting with the Prime Minister talking about it, with celebrities talking about it, with huge amounts of funding allocated to educate right from the end user or the end defecator to the bureaucrats who make the policies. So you had posters come out, you had advertisements, you had celebrities talk about it, you had drawing competition in school. I've seen kids making pictures of toilets and Swachh Bharat, etc. Then you make toilets free of cost. Thousands and thousands of crores invested to provide what is required. And then 10 years down the line, we now are beginning to get data that says that because of the Swachh Bharat scheme, in areas where more than 30% toilets have been installed, the infant mortality rate or under 5 mortality rates have reduced compared to those districts that haven't got it. Now, use the same amount of force, influence, money, and look at rape as a public health issue, rather than looking at it as only a law and order issue. In order to change society, like you have changed people's mindsets, those who are defecating in public now have a toilet, now know why it is important to defecate in properly. You could do the same. And there is a message in the fact that we have sudden knee-jerk reaction to high-profile cases of rape and murder, like we're having now, like we had 12 years ago after Nirbhaya.
Right.
But in between, there is absolute silence. How many times do you see celebrities talk about this as an issue? Has anyone spoken about it now? So there is a lot that can be done at a policy level, provided we recognize that law and order is not enough. You need lots and lots of reform there, no doubt. Reforms in the police, reform in the education system. Children in India don't get sex education because it's a taboo. It's, you shouldn't talk to children about these matters. They're too young, but they're watching pornography on their palms. That's how they're getting their sex education. So if you don't give them the healthy sex education, they will get it in unhealthy ways and they will learn that way. So we need changes in we need educational reforms. I was recently reading that there are 16 MPs and 135 MLAs across the country who have either been convicted or are facing sexual violence charges. Now, these are elected representatives of the people. Now, disqualification of candidates is possible for crimes such as terrorism, dowry, sati, if you're non-secular in what you say, but there isn't sexual violence mentioned there. Why not? Why can't we not disqualify these people? When you take these measures, people learn that this is wrong. So there are reforms that you can make in the elected representative, electoral reforms. You can make reforms in the prison where you can bring in academics who know how to assess risks, manage these people, and modernize our penal system rather than hark back to age-old systems of punish them, kill them, get them out of sight.